The United States government will never default. That we will.
The United States government will never default on its debt because it can just raise the debt ceiling. And what happens when the government raises the debt ceiling? It's allowed to borrow more money. What happens when the government borrows more money? Inflation. I'm just kidding. It's not inflation, but most people will tell you that the government prints money, and when the government spends money, it causes inflation. That is horribly inaccurate. See, because when an individual or an entity borrows money, it does not create that money. It borrows it from somebody else. So that means that the money was already there. It just came from, your bank account or a foreign investor's bank account or something like that. It was already there. So when the government borrows money, it's not creating any more money or adding the money to the money supply. What's actually happening is the government is taking money out of the loanable funds market. And in the loanable funds market, you have the supply and demand, just like everything else in this world. In the loanable funds market, there are two people who demand loanable funds, that is the government and businesses. And then the people who supply the loanable funds are me and you. So when the government goes and borrows money, what it does actually is it crowds out business investment because it sucks up all the loanable funds in the market, causing business investment to likely decline. And the other thing that you need to keep in mind with this too is you can raise the debt ceiling all you want, but what if nobody buys the United States Treasury bill? Well, if nobody buys your bond, that is the United States federal government's, then it doesn't matter how high you raise your debt ceiling if nobody's going to buy the bond. And what do you have to do if nobody's buying your bond? You have to raise the interest rate that you're offering the investor to buy your bond. So then the government borrowing more and more and more and more will somewhat naturally cause higher interest rates the more the government borrows. The federal government borrowing more and more money will cause interest rates to go up because the demand for loanable funds is increasing. And when demand increases, what happens to prices, or in this case, interest rates? They're going to go up. So, a couple takeaways for you to take home is the federal government borrowing money does not increase inflation. What it does is it crowds out business investment and it makes the cost of borrowing more expensive.